So last week I made a video where I took certain things into consideration, and through the process of elimination I scratched out on a map of the lower 48 places maybe that you wouldn't want to live during SHTF. And through the process of elimination we came up with some good areas of the country where perhaps one might want to be located in the event of a doomsday scenario. The video did very well. Obviously there's a lot of interest in this topic, so I figure why not revisit it at least one time. And today we're going to take a look at 5 excellent places that you might consider moving to now to give yourself an advantage in case SHTF ever happens. So hey, this is not going to be a top 5 countdown in any way. These are not in any particular order. I can't do that because, quite frankly, when it comes to this topic, we don't have all the information we need to make an informed decision. You know, we don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know why, we don't know where something could kick off and cause doomsday. Now, if you read your Bible, we can eliminate water as what's going to be used against us. God already used that one time with the whole Noah's Ark story. If you're a follower of the Bible gives us certain signs to look out for. Those signs could be misinterpreted as they come our way, or we might miss them and only see them in hindsight. So we really don't have enough information. Let me give you an example. If we knew it was going to be nuclear war, right, then obviously we wouldn't want to live near nuclear silos, such as the ones up in North Dakota. If we knew it was not going to be nuclear war, North Dakota might be an excellent choice. If we knew Yellowstone was going to erupt, and then obviously we might look at a place like Hawaii, southern Florida, but we don't know what the scenario is going to be. We don't have enough information to make a 100% completely informed decision, but we can make a couple generalizations. We can look at our basic needs of survival, you know, water, shelter, at least a halfway hospitable climate. You know, Antarctica might not be the best choice. Who knows? We don't. Maybe that's the only place any survivors will be. How ironic would it be if doomsday comes and the only people who made it were the ones that live in high-rise apartment buildings in the city of Manhattan, right? It can happen. And who knows, maybe it won't be one thing that triggers doomsday. Perhaps the Yellowstone volcano will erupt. And sensing that we're weak, our enemies will decide at that point to launch a nuclear attack. This draws the attention of the aliens, who immediately determine that we have to be exterminated. And when the aliens invade, we release a pathogen, hoping to wipe out the aliens, but instead the pathogen mutates and negatively affects and harms humans. Sensing that their invasion plan is going to be unsuccessful, the aliens summons with their technology a huge asteroid to impact the Earth. And after all that, the only people who end up surviving live on the 30th floor of a Manhattan skyrise, you know, a place that, you know, typically we wouldn't choose to be ideal for survival. Might be just the place depending on the situation. So let's begin our list of 5 great places that you could locate yourself in order to give yourself an advantage of surviving doomsday with the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The Upper Peninsula is actually part of Michigan, even though it's really attached to Wisconsin. Michigan got it in exchange for Toledo, Ohio. What a good trade, huh? They gave up Toledo and got the UP. Anyway, the Upper Peninsula is USDA Growing Zone 4, near the shoreline of the Great Lakes. Some areas are Zone 5. So some of the pros of living in the Upper Peninsula are the low population density. There are very few people here. There are, however, abundant natural resources. Much of the UP is covered in forest, while, as this map shows, there is some farmable land up there. And fresh water is very plentiful. Some of the cons are brutally cold winters. I mean, they measure snow in the feet up there. It's a good thing that much of the UP is covered with trees, because with it being that cold, you're going to need a lot of firewood to stay warm during those long, cold, snowy winters. As far as the laws go, Michigan is a swing state, so Sometimes it's Democrat, sometimes it's Republican. So as far as prepper-friendly laws, it's hit or miss. So let's continue on with the list, shall we? Let's talk about a special place that's near and dear to all of our hearts. A place that might be an excellent choice to survive in. That place is Texas. Now, you could do a whole video or even write a whole book on Texas because the climate, the terrain, it varies so wildly from one part of the state to the other. In the eastern part of the state, it wouldn't be uncommon to come across a swamp or a swampy area along the border with Louisiana. Out west, you got some dry scrubland. West Texas. It is beautiful, though. To the south, it's the desert. Totally dry. Not barren of life, not unsurvivable, but very dry. And up north, you start to get into the Great Plains. It's like they say, Texas, it's like a whole nother country. From the coast to the desert to the Great Plains. I think as long as you avoided the high population areas, you do pretty well in Texas. And the Gulf Coast of Texas produces a lot of seafood, so it's another abundant resource available. Texas, they've got their own power grid. You know, in the lower 48, you've got the eastern power grid, the western power grid. Texas has its own power grid. So Texas as a whole has a lot going for it. You know, they've got their own power grid. A lot of good people down there. A lot of natural resources. A lot of energy jobs. A lot of, fuel production. And I hate to stereotype, but there probably are a lot of good old boys down there who know how to fix stuff and know how to do things and know how to build stuff. So it's got that going for it. Now let's look at northern Idaho. USDA Growing Zone 6. I currently live in northwestern Illinois, which is far south of Idaho, and I'm only in Zone 5. So the climate there, not too bad for as far north as it is. Some of the pros of this area are there's no hurricanes, there's no tornadoes, no earthquakes. You're in a minimal fallout area if there were nuclear war. Some of the cons, short growing season, rocky soil. You're really going to have to work your soil if you're going to farm or garden up here. And like I said, it is pretty far north, so that growing season, very short, you're going to have to make the most of it. Otherwise, real decent. So moving right along to the fourth area on the list, in no particular order, we're going to talk about the Ozarks. Southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, maybe a little bit in Oklahoma and Kansas. The Ozarks, you're looking at growing zones 6 and 7. So pretty warm in the summer, but the winters are very mild. There's a moderate population density here, so it's not a low population, but it is indeed moderate. The states of Missouri and Arkansas are considered to be prepper-friendly. Plenty of trees. Forestry is a huge industry down there, so a lot of firewood available for those mild winters. Also, a lot of clean, fresh water. A lot of springs. There's springs everywhere down there. Long growing season. Some of the cons are you do have St. Louis, Memphis, Kansas City, Tulsa. You got to avoid those high population areas. The Lone Star ticks are very common, borderline on an infestation of them. If they bite you, one of the diseases they carry, called the alpha-gal syndrome, can basically make you allergic to red meat. Let me tell you, I've been to the Ozarks many times, and these Lone Star ticks, especially in the springtime, are everywhere. There are venomous snakes like copperheads, and it could be difficult to find treatment for snake bites in a grid-down environment. Also, you're right here in Tornado Alley. Dealing with a tornado in today's world is bad enough, but in a grid-down scenario where there is no Home Depot or Lowe's to run out and buy some lumber, the aftermath of a tornado, could be very difficult to deal with in a grid-down situation. The final area we're going to talk about today, as far as great places to be before SHTF, is Maine. That's right, Maine, in particular, northern Maine. Now, northern Maine has a USDA climate of Zone 4, which means it has brutally cold winters, a lot of snow, a lot of nor'easter storms coming off the Atlantic Ocean up there. With it being so far north, yes, there is a short growing season. Now, Maine is known for its lobsters, its seafood. So if you're close to the coast, you got a good potential to have a good resource there. However, most of the people in Maine, yeah, they live in that southern coastal region. Now, I've always heard that Maine has the cleanest and best drinking water as far as groundwater goes in the lower 48. So, plenty of good drinking water, plenty of forested areas because you're going to need firewood for those very cold winters, and a relatively low population density as long as you stay out of the south. The only issue I have is if you don't live there, if you're not already there when the stuff goes down, it could be hard to get there. I mean, you're going to have to travel through some of the most highly populated areas of the country just to get up in there. I don't want you to get upset if I don't list where you live at as one of the best places to be to avoid doomsday. Call it what you will. Honestly, you could look at the map and put your finger anywhere on the map and say that place is no good because of this. It's too close to a power plant. It's too close to a nuclear silo. It's too close to a fault line. It's too close to a floodplain. It's too close to a government laboratory. You can find fault anywhere you look on the map. I think the best move anybody can make is to take stock of your current situation, where you're at, and what steps you need to take to prepare considering your current environment. And no matter where you're at, work on your skills, or think of how valuable a doctor or a dentist would be in a post-apocalyptic world. If you need a tooth extracted, it'd be nice to have a dentist around. Do you know how to do stitches, sutures? Do you have any medical training? Can you fix an engine? Do you know how to make diesel fuel from vegetable oil? If you think about it, where you live now, you're familiar with the seasons there. You're familiar with the local flora and fauna. What plants are edible. Hopefully you're familiar with those things. Chances are you're best suited to survive with the area that you're familiar with, the place you call home. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Please leave a comment. Thank you very much. I will see you all down the trail somewhere. Until then, have a great day.